Hey everyone, welcome to this brand new episode of Freedoms. Today we got a really special guest. He's 18 years old. His name is Kendall Booker, and he's currently building Siden AI. He's from California, and he's doing this with a team, and you will see this in the interview. It's going to be amazing. And also, find something out very interesting during the middle of the episode. Just keep on listening so that you do not miss on any golden nuggets. So, Kendall, how do you feel about the current part of your journey?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a very just like a loopy thing. One day you're having like a lot of assignment, the other days, not really too much going around. I think it's kind of just a ride on journey. I think it works out in the very long run.
Yeah, and I think the viewers would be super curious to know before even building Sidon, what was your life like?
Yeah, so I did a lot of sports. I've done wrestling all my life. I got into it with my dad, so I've kind of always had that, like just the golden mindset. But I also did a lot of content creation. So I did that for a while, got 40,000 followers on there, did that multiple times. That was, like, the first ever thing I created. It wasn't like a for-profit business or anything, but that kind of excited me to, try out make my own business and try marketing it myself.
Whoa, that's so cool. And can you tell us, like, how did you start that particular business back in the days?
Yeah, so it was a PC optimization. So it was basically a bat file that debloated people's computers, mainly just for Windows. So it's like, all the extra stuff you get on your computer when you first buy it, just is what helps them lower the cost when you buy it. It essentially removes all that extra software from it. So then you just are using what you want to use.
Well, that's actually incredible because I guess you were already building that business when you were even younger, like at 16 or 18 or 17. But what made that entrepreneurial mindset that you currently have? Like, what were your biggest influences back in the days?
Probably my parents and like Gary Vee. I did a lot of just watching Gary Vee. I used to be very big into like the crypto kind of stuff. So I think that was kind of the very start of everything.
Wow! And at what age did you start with crypto?
I think it was like 13.
Okay. That is so young. It's incredible. A lot of entrepreneurs, they start businesses when they're, anywhere between maybe 24 down to the 26 type of average. What inspires you to go ahead and build something way more serious, like the startup that you're currently building?
Honestly, I seen a lot of people building stuff and I tried to build my own thing and it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, I don't have people that help me with this. I don't really have those connections made already. So I was like, "Hey, what can I use to help me get better at this?" Then I tried things like Cursor. Cursor at the time wasn't that great, but it definitely I mean, for me, I didn't know how to code, like, insanely well, but I knew how to code, and then Cursor helped a lot, and then I was trying to publish it, and then I was like, "Hey, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do all this legal work, all this financing, all this research, the competitors." So then I was like, "Okay, where are all the agents at, like, for this kind of stuff?" So then I looked for it, found a couple, but it was, like, really weird when you're working in between, like, 8 websites. So I was like, "Why don't I bring it all in one where they're able to communicate with each other?" And it gives them a bigger context.
Oh, this is awesome. Absolutely inspiring, to say the least. And you said that you failed a few, businesses before doing this one. Curious, maybe you can unpack the failures and what did you learn from those failures?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the failures were just not being able to execute them. I've always created, like, this lot of projects throughout the year. I created a project he was with an IBM dude, so decently reputable. He used to be the, product manager there. I created it was a marketplace for it was an app store marketplace, so it was an autonomous marketplace, kinda like Silk Road, but the legal version of it, essentially is what it was for iPhone. And then we were gonna launch it in San Francisco, California area, so it was a really cool app, but, we just really couldn't get it done when it came to the marketing, having the big budget for it and all that kinda stuff. There's just a lot of disconnection there, so I think it's, my main thing that I try now is to kind of stay connected very close to my co-founders and just, like, find a way, just work through it instead of just saying, "Okay, it's not gonna work out." So it's my probably my big way is just to kind of just ride through it.
No, interesting. And do you remember when did you actually give up? Because I'm asking because a lot of founders, when they're young and they're starting, an interesting project, and they give up, usually, they have something difficult happening in their lives. Was there a signal that was really intense that okay, it's time to move on? This one's belly up. Let's go for the next one.
Usually, honestly, it's just whenever I have a really better idea, and it's kind of just the idea is more starting to slow down for me. That's kinda my thing. If I think the market's dying off or if it's just not the thing that I really wanna push it and I haven't pushed it out to the market, it's just not the thing. That's kinda what I'll usually go to. I think the same thing that happened with him. He wasn't working a job or anything, and then, he wanted to kind of get back into that scene instead of just trying to create his own startup, so we just, separated ways. That was right before this, and then, about a month after, I founded Siden with my co-founder, and then we added one more co-founder on since then.
Oh, that's really cool. And how did you guys meet? The other co-founders, and can you tell us about that little story? For example, what happens so that you decided to go ahead and build it together?
Yeah, so it was actually I came up with the idea a little bit back. Originally, I was creating an IDE. So the IDE is essentially like a lovable, except for it was on just your local IDE. There's something like that where you could, push it to the web, which Cursor is kind of caught up onto now with all the integrations, that kind of stuff. That's essentially what it was. But I created a whole workflow. But then I was like, hey, this isn't the idea I want to go for because they're going to catch up to this really fast. And it's just not going to be the biggest market hit. So I switched. I was like, I'm going to think of another idea. So I gave it a month and then a hackathon came away from Next.js. They had their first ever hackathon, and then we actually did this project in that hackathon. So it was a very poor version of this, but we created it in 2 days. So we did a lot of frameworks. Now, currently, though, we built everything from scratch. So we don't use any frameworks other than the very base level, like Next.js and Fast API. But we built the agent layer and everything ourselves, just for a little bit more scalability infrastructure. But yeah, and then my other co-founder, I also met him just through Discord. I was just lurking through
Wow,
a
that's
Discord
so
server, and
random.
I came across him. Yeah, he works for the Romanian government, so
Oh my god.
he has quite a lot of experience. I just learned yesterday he uses Rust as his main
Okay.
language, so
Oh
that's
god.
really something cool for us because we were talking about some making like a whole framework, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Rust. That's my main language." I was like, "What?"
That's so cool. And Kendall, I'm very curious. You're already talking about a lot of programming languages. When did you start teaching yourself computer science or programming in general? And what were you mostly focused on even before heading over to that sphere?
Yeah, so I did a lot of gaming originally. I played, just like game levels, Rocket League, Fortnite, those kind of levels,
Right.
games. And then I switched a little bit to kind of like computer. I did some streaming and then I was on Discord a lot and I created a streaming server for myself because I was streaming at like, five. Then I eventually got to like 50 live viewers concurrent. And then I wanted a Discord bot in the Discord server. This was like 8 years ago, so, there really wasn't that many, there was me, 6, and that was about it. So I was like, "Okay, I wanna create a Discord bot." Hopped on YouTube and, started just coding away in some Python.
Interesting. Wow. So that's an interesting, fork in your life where you went from gaming into the world of programming, and I guess it opened up so many possibilities for you that you just couldn't let go, right?
Yeah, exactly. I switched to front end now, though.
Interesting, interesting. And yeah, so you see, that's the thing. Most 18-year-old kids, they're optimizing for grades, right? But you're actually optimizing for business success at this point. So what's your mindset like? The influence. I understand. You had Gary V and your parents, but what's your mindset like if you were to put the top three aspects of what's motivating for you?
I'd say my top 3 things are just kind of if you're gonna dedicate like, a time of your life, why not kinda just give it 100%? And something that I kinda put together in, like, the last 2 years is I'm putting the same time into it. Why not just like go through the struggle and pain of it and like do the best you can? And I think if you really do that, that's gonna be your best use of time if you really want to get something done. Second thing, don't be afraid to ask people for like help, like for a lot of the things. I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I think that's the really big thing. Like throughout this past a couple weeks I've been in California, I've asked as many people as I can for help with some things, warm intros, all those kind of things. I think if you're afraid to do it, I think that's gonna be basically your hardest thing, and you probably won't get past it. That's one thing you really have to break is just not being afraid. A lot of people, if you don't ever talk to them, they're not gonna remember you. Even if you talk to them, they're fine with it most times. If they're not gonna remember you. There's 8 billion people in the whole world. It's it's a wide market of people. Um, and the last thing, do you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that not a lot of people are aware, as aware as you, that there are 8 billion people on our planet. So this means opportunities, they're infinite. Even, if you're building out something that already exists or something even better that already exists, there's still so much place in this market to grow, right? And you realize this so early on, and this erase this fear of going forward and building something potentially life changing for a lot of businesses out there. So yeah, it was just a thought I had. Yeah, and tell me if you found that third one.
For the third one, I'd really say just apply yourself on social media. I think if you create a foundation, I think that's a really great thing. Like during crypto, for example, is probably my biggest time that I create a foundation. I met with a lot of people. I met like with Gary Vee, for example, one of my biggest inspirations. I met with him, and I mean, I took some crazy rides during NFTs. For example, for VCon, I snuck into his private lounge. I met him. I met a lot of people in that lounge.
Wait, Kendall, you
I
gotta
think
tell us how the hell did you even sneak in there? What?
Yeah, so, I don't know if you've ever heard of sperm racing, but, that's my friend, he created that. One of my friends, he's, part of the creators. His name is Nick
Cool.
Small. So, we were at
Nice.
VCon and, we found the way to get down to the lounge, which is it's essentially a big hallway. You go downstairs to the Viking Stadium.
Okay.
Then you go down the path, and then there's a couple of checkpoints of security. So I got past the first one, just walked past them, just being confident in yourself, to be
Okay.
honest. That's all it was, just like confident, just walk past. And then the next one, they actually rejected me, but I believe he was the Coinbase founder is what it was, and he was there
Really?
since it was a coin. Yeah, so it was
Wow.
Coinbase's lounge. So Coinbase was a
Oh,
sponsor of it. So it was Coinbase Lounge is what the VIPs were in. And then I was there walking away. He said, "It's fine, you can go in." And then they let me
wow.
in. And now there's another security to get Gary V's. So instead of that, since he's in the booth, we just hopped over the wall. So then we're in Gary V's
Seriously, over
lounge.
the wall.
Yep.
Oh my god, that's amazing. First of all, let's pause here for a second and just picture what you just said. A lot of people would already give up on the first attempt. So the first security, guard, whatever, just like in a game, maybe they would just not even try themselves, right? So they would see it as a huge risk. What would people think of me? But you're like, meh, I'm just gonna still go ahead and go through it. And then there was, boss level number two, and you didn't care either. You just still, didn't even think about the risks, and you took the risk and you took the plunge. And I think at your age, so this happened probably when you was 17, right? Even earlier, maybe.
I think it was 15, 16.
15. Oh my god. So imagine that, people are afraid of taking risks even at, 25. So you already started taking risks when you were extremely young. Like this is crazy, okay? And this is the good crazy. Okay, and okay, cool. So you went into his lounge and how did it happen there? Like they let you in and what did you talk to him?
Yeah, so I had him sign, a couple
Huh.
things. I didn't talk to him too much.
Uh-huh.
I didn't wanna bug him. I didn't wanna get kicked out of his lounge, but I talked to him. I talked to his mother for quite a while, for like 10 minutes,
Really?
and same with
What did you
to
guys
his
talk about?
father.
Like tell us.
Just it was really just about the event. We were talking about the event, like what we thought was good, what we thought was bad. That was really the main thing we talked with her.
Nice.
They told us to stay in NFTs, stay around the crypto space. There's
Oh,
a lot of money, that kind of stuff. So,
interesting.
yeah, honestly, it was a very fun event.
Interesting. And do you feel like that moment where, you met with this big influencer, Gary Vee, do you feel like it pivoted your mindset, the way that you were thinking about your next steps? Did it motivate you?
I definitely think it did. I think it motivated me to just it was more so not even the aspects of, meeting the person. I think it was more so the aspect of I was really scared to go down there and try to do it, but I just did it, and then it worked out in the end. I think it's that kind of mindset to me is, if you just go ahead and do it, worst comes to worst, you get kicked out, okay. I mean, best comes to best, you get to meet one of the biggest people in the whole world that influences it. I think it's a big trade-off, and it's the same thing with, starting a startup is worst comes to worst, you fail trying, and then, best comes to best, you just made a whole startup. You can try again. There's multiple times in your life that you're gonna be able to try again.
That's amazing and very inspiring. A lot of people wouldn't even think of starting something so young. Like they would find reasons to not do that at all, right? Do you remember if you had any kind of pushbacks, like thoughts or even people that told you not to go ahead and start? Did it happen around you, or were people supportive?
Most people were pretty supportive. My parents, they're very both ways. They think of college, that kind of stuff. So it's very both ways. Both ways. I'm really good with school. I'm a 4.0, so I'm kind of just keeping everything steady. So that's yeah. They look at the downs, but they also look at the ups. So I think it's a pretty fair trade off.
I love it. And so, okay, let's say you started the business. Do you remember the worst moments where your parents told you, like, okay, maybe you should focus only on studies? Was there any fights going on that you remember or not really?
I mean, not really.
Okay,
I've always been really fast with my school. I usually spend other than in the classroom, I don't have any homework. I just get done in class. I think if I'm just there, just get it done instead of just staying on my phone. And then whenever I'm done, I can do whatever I want after. That's kind of my mindset is just get it done, to be honest.
right.
So I didn't really ever have too much of a problem. The only other thing for me was just walking in on meetings, and then other than that, everything's been pretty good for me. So.
No, this is great. You see, most founders, they don't necessarily have the supporting circle around them, whether it's family that are, telling them, no, you're going to be a doctor, or no, you're going to be a lawyer. Don't do this. You're crazy. So it's great that you were in this type of bubble that is really supportive. Plus, you've met your friends, which is extremely awesome. And tell us about, for example, the relationship in the business that you're currently having with your buddies. Like, how do you go about separating tasks and building out the new project?
Yeah, so Hernoyo, he's from Romania. As I mentioned before, he's from Europe. He does the back end work. I do a lot of the front end designing, so I do that kind of aspect. And then Andrew, which is my other co-founder, he is from Texas. He does basically connecting that back end to the front end and making sure it's just nice and clean for us. And then he does a little bit of the front end design as well. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So you got a full stack team so far, and have you already been, trying to get out there looking for clients, or for now you're mostly on the, MVP side of things, trying it out for yourself?
So we're pretty MVP right now. We are just starting to get the integrations out. So we have integrated Google, we've integrated Zillow, LinkedIn. One of the LinkedIn posts that you actually mentioned for me, that was created by one of our agents. So
Cool. Oh, wow,
that's
that's
really
amazing.
cool. Yep. Other than the image was created by me, just a little graphics design, and then yeah. So we've been having just testing it out a little bit, and then we're testing out a lot of stuff with the developer, that kind of stuff. But no, it's been coming around pretty well. We have 150 signups right now. We've done one marketing post, and then we have a Fortune 500 company also signed up. I don't know if they'd be using it too much, but we have Verso there on the sign up list. So
Oh, this
yeah,
is amazing. This is amazing. And impactful. Literally, a lot of founders, when they do something, they're not hitting hard or they're not automating anything, and you're already starting to use your own product to bring yourselves some sales and some prospects into the pipeline, which is really cool. And right now, because you're 18, you have to balance your life. I'm talking about friends, I'm talking about family, I'm talking about business, and all that good stuff. Maybe sports or whatever. How are you optimizing your time? Any tips for the founders struggling with that right now?
yeah. So I would definitely want to say I'm the best with time optimization, but I always seem to make the same amount of time. I typically work like 18 hours a day.
Oh
So
my God,
I'm,
for
I'm
real?
yeah. So I typically
Whoa.
I'll wake up around like 10 o'clock in the day,
Okay.
and then I'll typically go to sleep around like 5 or 6 o'clock. So
Wow. Okay, I
yeah.
see. And
Um
yeah,
yeah.
tell me. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning is what I typically would go to sleep. And that's a lot of sports. I did wrestling and all that kind of stuff. So I'd be up pretty late. Either I'd get a late workout in or I'd just be coding because I had a late practice. So kind of just works both ways.
You
Yeah.
said 5 a.m. You're going to sleep at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
The there's also a thing to that is my he's from Romania, so
uh,
typically I like to stay up and kind of make sure he's updated with everything. It's usually like gets up about 5 a.m. So I'll just text him. It's a little bit nicer that I'm here in California now. So because
mm,
before it was a little bit later in Minnesota because it's 2 hours ahead, so it'd be like
mhm.
6 a.m. like that kind of stuff a lot. But here's a little bit better about 5 a.m. But he's in Romania, so I like to stay awake, make sure that he's, interconnected, kind of keep us in a great loop and not so we don't have, like, the interference that he's in Europe and we're in America. Make sure he's up to date with everything, all the changes, he understands it. Then I head to bed, and then I wake up and, see what he's done for the day, and then it's mine and Andrew's turn.
You're definitely hitting on something big here. A lot of people see success as something that happens overnight. You're talking to me about churning out nights where you go out and sleep at 5 a.m. Okay, most people don't understand that. This is alien language to them. And for you, you're saying it as if it was just, meh, something typical. So,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I think a lot of founders out there should take note that you have to grind. Do you feel like you're working hard, or does this feel like a passion to you?
I'd say it's kinda both ways. I'm, like, very passionate about it. I really wanna get our product to the market. That's my main thing. I do think I'm working pretty hard, but, I think I can work a little bit harder, so that's kinda what I've been pushing for.
Interesting. And do you feel like right now you still have some sort of bottlenecks? And if yes, like what are they?
So we have a couple bottlenecks, obviously, lot to do with, money, but, we're working well through it. We've finally got some, like, AWS credits, all those startup credits, so we're finally starting to get those. But, yeah, there's definitely bottlenecks with, infrastructure stuff. That was the main reason that we actually just built it out ourselves is because a lot of bottlenecks we experienced when we did the hackathon, actually. That's when we made this idea just to do it, because we originally released it, and it was not working. And it was because of the framework. The framework did support what we were doing. And so then we were like, okay, if we want to actually create this into an actual thing, I texted him the next day right after that because I was like, hey, do you want to create this into a full company? That's exactly what I told him. And he was like, let's do it. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's so cool. And I'm curious, what were the key inflection moments that happened when you were still way younger that mentally prepared you to go ahead and raise capital and ship products when you're 18?
Yeah. So, kind of back to the PPC optimization thing. I talked to a lot of people. So I talked to with KJO PCs. He's a big influencer, and then Carter PCs. I talked to him as well. I think is you can get really anyone's attention if you bug them enough. I'm gonna be honest.
Mm.
I think that's really like I think people are really really afraid to bug someone. They think that it's gonna really make them hate you. And I think of it this way, either they do hate you or they like you. And there's really no in between that. It's just if they don't know you, they're never gonna know you. So why
Right.
not just like kind of try to bug them? Like see how it works out. Same thing with investors. Send an email, yeah, that investor to an email. See
Yep.
if he likes it. If he says no, oh well, he probably is not gonna remember you. He gets 1,000 emails a day. I think of it
Exactly.
that way. I think that's my big reflection on that kind of stuff. So
And
yeah.
where did you find out, for example, that investors get thousands of emails a day? Because most 18-year-olds don't even know that type of, information. How did you, get into this
Yeah,
ecosystem
so
where you understood that?
YouTube.
You do.
It's
Right.
a really a lot of YouTube. Um, I talked with one investor before, a lot of them will say, we get 1,000 investors. I have multiple tabs on my computer right now, and they're just like a bunch of this is how you write your email. I think that's really important is to before you do something, study it a little bit. Typically, I like to study who I'm gonna be sending an email to, and then I'll be like, "Okay, this is what they're investing in, so let me tailorize this email a little bit towards this. Hey, you invested in this pre-seed. I think it's really cool. I think my company would fit in really well with what you're looking for. I see you're doing a lot of automation stuff." That's typically how I do it. I found some great templates online that, really detail out how you should layer it out to get it into their mailbox like the no words. You can't say these certain words because they'll get you into
Yeah,
spam. That's
exactly.
it's kind of a lot of things. Just before you do something, try to do a little research around it. It's just like a sport, before you go out and you go into a live competition, you do some training, you learn about it, you get better over time.
Oh yeah, yeah, really well said. And on our Phenoms episodes, we already had tons of founders that confirmed that it takes anywhere between 100 to 150 meetings or no's to get to a yes. So, for example, if someone raises 3 million as a seed round and they had 100 no's, it's basically every no is worth 30K, right? So far, how many no's did you receive?
Yeah, so, I have a couple meetings today actually, which is probably my most meetings that I've had, but, I've had one other one, we received a yes,
Oh,
and that's
awesome.
really about it, so we're 1 for 1,
Oh,
I'm
that's
still trying
amazing.
to get a lot more emails, I've been really sidetracked, focused on, actually getting the product out because 'cause we're really close, I wanna get a demo ready. We're, like, just on the edge of having a demo ready, so, yeah, that's my main thing. I've been demonstrating it a little bit, through events. I've been talking with people at events, so we've been getting a lot of signups through that kind of stuff.
Mm,
That's
cool.
really the main thing, and then, I plan to start sending out some more messages, but, since my LinkedIn post has been going pretty well.
Awesome. And for the young founders out there listening in, do you have some, tips to share on how do you speak to investors? Because you're young, like, we can't hide that. You're 18 years old. Most investors, they speak with people that are anywhere between, 25 all the way to 35 years old. So how do you position yourself so that investors, they see that, okay, you're building something great. You're serious about this. This is something big. How like what's your approach there?
Yeah, so typically, I just kinda speak to myself and kinda let it go. I like to always prepare. One thing that, I really learned just from watching YouTube videos again was prepare everything that you have. You want to be as fluent as possible and keep them interested. So try to have the least amount of downtimes as you can. So that's, for example, have your deck prepared. They're going to want to see your deck. If you have a demo ready, have your local host prepared. Have your idea already started up. You should be able to show them something, whether it's something functional or whether it's just the looks of it. I think that's really important. Anything that you think you're going to show to that investor that you yourself find interesting about your brand should already be in a tab or just opened up, ready for just one click, and then you can show them. I think that's really an important thing. It helps them kind of see that you're a little bit more serious, you're focused. Like even my first investor, the first thing he said to me, he's like, "How many meetings have you had? You seem really experienced." I was like, "This is my first one." That's
For real?
how that
Oh
went.
my
So
god,
yeah,
that's amazing. No, I love that. Oh my god. Uh, and I'm pretty much in shock, probably like everyone out there, to see someone young going in like 100,000 kilometers an hour towards his goal without even looking backwards. And This is really cool and inspiring and motivating to say the least. So whatever you're doing, it's working. You got it. You
Thank you.
definitely got it. Yeah. So, I'm curious. At this point, traditional startups, they're doing manual tasks. So, what would your agents instantly automate for them?
Yeah, so there's really many things. One thing that got brought up to me yesterday by someone that he does social media. So the one thing that he brought up is he finds articles. So he usually finds 3 articles, okay, and then he translates them, or not translates them, but has them basically mixed through 11 labs and then posted onto Spotify as a podcast, just like we're on a podcast right now. So something just like that. So all you would have to do is say, "Hey, take these articles and post them onto Spotify." They do the whole automation to create your audio for you. That's just that's probably the simplest example. There's many other ones for like developer, for example. Maybe your website goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're not awake. Well, that agent will look at your site. It can monitor it for you. Whether you're doing email monitoring, maybe you're using Vercel and you're doing some monitoring through them. You can connect the agent to Vercel as well. But for the email, for example, it's going to see the email. It's going to read the email, see if it's of value to it. If it's of value to it, then it's going to evaluate it. It's going to look through the code base. So all of our agents, they run on virtual machine. So we have 2 ways that they work. We have tooling. Tooling is, MCPs, all that kind of stuff. We built it all out from ourselves. So not using any third party, which main reason for that is because we have company data. So like, for example, you can connect your super base to us and you can have our outreach agent, which is called the lead agent, lead representative, and she can go send emails to people. Well, we don't want to share that information with all these other third-party frameworks, brands, libraries, all that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of pretty safe, but it still is a lot of liabilities on other brands, and essentially almost every single company right now in AI is really doing that, which I think is something that they'll pivot to. But I think everyone's kind of just trying to create something really, really fast. So they're all kind of leaving vulnerabilities. The same thing with a lot of people's, code getting late is they're just really trying to push out really, really fast, which I think is great. But it's a little bit like a security scare, which is I'm pretty safe with my Romanian guy. He's really big in that security part. So I think that's really great for me. I'm not the best in that side, but he's, I mean, top of line for that. So that's yeah.
And I was about to ask, because a lot of investors are probably gonna, open that page and talk about security and compliance. So what's
Yep.
your approach? Because again, you didn't study compliance and it's a complex world. And when it comes to data and MCPs and all that, it's pulling out data into these brains and then uses it to, train the agents or whatever. So how do you approach this? Not knowing what you should know because, well, you're not a compliance officer from what I know. So what's your approach there for security and data?
Yeah. So for security and data, obviously this is gonna be better for my co-founder because he's gonna be able to answer it a little bit better. But so for example, we just index, we do not save your data other than what the messages that are set to the agent. That's the only thing we index. So if you talk about something and it doesn't have a reference for it that's already in the conversation with it that you've told it, it's gonna index it. Then it pull it and then it can store it from there. So if you have it in your super base, we only ever will store it if it ever gets pulled. So if you say, hey, send an email to Nancy, well, it doesn't already know who Nancy is. So it's going to look through your super base, AWS, whatever database you're using. It's going to look for it. It's going to index it just like if I were to use Control F right now, just like on Google Sheets, for example, it'll look through it and it'll find that person with that specific thing. Same thing happens with the agent. It looks for that specific thing. It pulls that one line out of it and then it says it to the agent. That's how the tool essentially works for that. And it doesn't see any of the other data.
No, this is amazing. And what's the first internal use case that like every startup should deploy autonomous agents for if they really want leverage right now?
Yeah, so the really cool thing about our agents is they're not task-based at all. They're actually employee-based. So we have like marketer, for example, lead representative, developer, product manager, CEO, and a couple other ones. We're starting with a base 8, which kind of keeps it very simple for startups, which is your main 8 that you're really going to need if you want to start a startup. And it's not necessarily if you're a startup just in tech, you can really be a startup in honestly anything. You can be consumer goods, I mean, drop shipping, whatever it is. We have marketing development. So obviously, if you do drop shipping or if you want to create a SaaS, you need a website. And you also need to do marketing. So my main ones that I always go with is product manager, marketing, and developer. I think that's like the perfect combination between having it. Someone that kind of, knows the market to managing the whole product, someone that's doing the marketing for it, something which is how my post got posted was through our marketer. Her name's Chloe. So we name all the agents to make them feel a little bit more human, which I'll get into something a little bit more cool about this in a minute here. But those are my main three. For example, you can create your marketing campaign so you can update your website.
Thanks for explaining that for us. And I'm just curious, at this point, what are your like biggest struggles? I think a lot of viewers are interested to know that.
Yeah, our biggest struggles right now, I don't think it's a struggle, but we're spending a lot of time just building the frameworks. Right now, we're building it's the workflow of the agents. So all of our agents, they work autonomous. You don't build the workflow for them. They build it themselves for you. So whenever you tell us to do a task, like for example, this podcast, you know how to do it. I'm not going to go tell you how to do your job, right?
Exactly.
It's you kind of figure it out. It's just like with a real employee, you're like, hey, this is what we need to get done for the week. Well, it should probably know that okay, this is what you got to do. So the goal is to make a marketing campaign. So you got to do some research on this. You got to look up this website. Maybe you got to go sign up for this website to get more information. Well, the agents can do that essentially. A lot of the problem that I
Cool.
think is with a lot of stuff right now is you have to tell every single step, which I think sucks. And that's what we're solving. So we're making our own, essentially, it's an orchestration little workflow, which tells the agents what tools to use, how to use them, and it lets them decide it. So yeah, that's the main kind of thing. It's taking us a couple months, but we're just about at the end of the curve here. Hopefully, in the next like week or two.
No, that's really awesome, and thanks for the transparency there. I'm curious, when you're gonna release to the public the actual MVP, where you have all of your subscribers so far, the 150 people that are waiting. Do you foresee other challenges that will start popping up that you will have to solve? Yeah, what do you foresee?
Yeah, so we actually got our problem brought up to us by a great another founder. He just launched his brand, so shout out to him. And then so the problem that he brought up was scalability. So it's called I think it's called Kunan. And essentially it's scaling having so many instances since all these are essentially running on one server. All these agents, they have these virtual machines, they have all this visioning. Well, that's really great when you only have 1,000 people on your website. But let's say you get to 10,000 people, then it's gonna start to slow down. That's a big problem. I don't want our systems to start slowing down on a large scale, which is really great because we built when we built everything from scratch, it lets us change everything. So essentially, we're building a new framework, which is how I figured out that he does Rust. We were looking at a framework, and I was like, "Okay, how can we build this, and how can we make it faster than theirs?" So we figured that way out, and then we're gonna start building that next week. Hopefully, it should only take a week or two to do, but that'll be after the launch and everything. We do plan to launch about around August. That's kind of the aimed area just before school. So yeah.
And was this strategically chosen? Is it because like you're going back to school and you'd have less time to focus on this, or is there any other reason? Like, for example, there's less demand in the market. Like, why did you decide that?
Originally just decided it just because we'd have it out. I think there's kind of going to be a lot of demand in this area. I think it's kind of a new area that's starting. I don't think anyone's really got to the point that we're at, essentially. A lot of them are very semi-autonomous or they're just complete workflows. We're kind of basically just mixing that workflow part with the semi-autonomous part and then a lot of triggers, which makes it basically fully autonomous. That's essentially how we came to that. The date, yeah, like I said before, it's just we have it done. It's gonna be the MVP version, so there's gonna be limited integrations. Probably be around 40 integrations, which is still quite a lot. I mean, your favorite ones, you have Zoom, for example, Google, you have GitHub, GitLabs, LinkedIn, and many others. Zillow. Even like last night, I brought up another thing. I was at the AWS event, and he's getting
It's
into
so cool. You're everywhere. You're like at different events. This is amazing. I'm just telling you because a lot of founders they sit at home. They don't really do much with their startup, but you're really out there. You're building in a very active way. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he brought up something with, it was real estate, and, there's nothing really for real estate, and he's currently building his own thing. He told me they hired someone, they gave him a lot of money. He still hasn't developed anything for it. Well, our really cool thing is we have Zillow fully built out, and then for a back thing, is he told us, yeah, well, that's kind of what we're trying to get to, but then we also need to figure out a way to do other things, like get, the crime rate, other than Zillow's crime rate. Zillow does have a crime rate, but they want it to show other statistics that aren't on Zillow and be able to add it into the same stuff that gets sent back to them. Well, ours is able to do that because essentially our fallback is Visiony. The go-to is always going to be to use the tools because it costs us less and it costs you less. So really just, I mean, the greatest thing. It costs a lot of money to stream a whole computer to your agent, but that's kind of just a fallback if we don't have a tool for it. I mean, I want everything to be able to be possible, and that's essentially what happens for him. Is this his fallback, and it completes everything. I let him get a little idea of it, and he said that's what he wants. He was like, if you guys get that out, we'll just switch over to that. We'll drop the person that we're currently having build it for us. It's kind of just a great thing to have a lot of integrations, I think. I feel like, I could have just built this more so towards tech, but I think there's a lot of this unaddressed markets. It's a really broad thing, and then another thing that I did wanna mention is we have call-in. So, just like the video call we're on right now, essentially, it's a whole Zoom interface built into it, just like Microsoft Teams, essentially. You're able to share the link as well. So just like how we're on a call right now, you can share the link just like on Zoom without costing you any extra money. So you can have third-party people connect to our site. They don't have to put in like an email or sign up or anything. They can just join the calls. So it's kind of a little great feature to have. But then there's also, the base features if you're having an insider call with your company. You don't have to switch over to all these platforms like Zoom and all this stuff. And the reason I did that is I didn't want to pay for Zoom
Yeah.
subscription. Um,
I
I
think
just
a lot
learned
of
that
people
a
are in
couple
your
weeks ago.
boat. It's the same thing, right? Like we get stuck at 45 minutes and then we're like, oh, we got to go back to Google Meet now or restart another
Yep.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. No, this is amazing. Sorry to interrupt. It's just so cool what you're building. This is extremely exciting. Yeah,
Thank you.
please tell me more.
Yeah, and then there's kind of one more thing to that, just to add on, not to ramble for so long about it. But the agents are also able to talk to you. The really big use case is someone texted me something on Twitter, and I didn't even post anything on Twitter. I was genuinely confused on how they knew about signing because it was like in the first couple weeks that I started it. They told us that they wanted to use it for copywriting. I was like, oh, that's great. You can
Okay.
send messages to our agent, and then they're
Yeah.
like, well, I want to talk to the agent. And that's kind of how we came up with it.
Uh,
So you're able to talk with the agents. You're able to do a
mm,
video call. They can see you. They can see how you're expressing stuff, which is I think is really cool. And that's kind of something that Google's also trying to do as well. They're doing a really great job at it. We're trying to figure out the way that they're doing it and make it a little bit better, hopefully. But that's another thing that we're working into. The agents are able to talk to you, like I said before. So, for example, if you tell it, hey, this is something I read, this is an article, obviously you can just send it the article or you can explain it in your narrative story, which I think is always better to give it your perspective of stuff. Just like if you were just sending an employee this compared to talking to them, it's a little bit better. But you can essentially tell it, you can ask it to summarize it, or you can just have it sitting in a business call and you can have it constantly fact checking things,
mm,
which I think is a really great thing to have. I think a
yeah.
lot of people are wanting just to have a fact checker. Like, hey, I think we're at 1,000 RRM this year. What's it looking like?
Right, and it will basically look at different sources while you're talking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
and yeah, this is really cool. And I'm curious because at this point, investors like when you're going to talk with them to raise that 750K pre-seed, and you will. I'm at we can put money on this that you will maybe probably even raise so much more than 750. Maybe you're still low balling it a little bit. But you see, they're probably going to ask, like, are you going to niche it out? Are you going to go like more diverse? So, what's your take on that? When they ask that, do you prefer to, niche into a specific vertical, or you want to go way broader?
Yeah. So for our target market, I think it's you're talking about the target market or us,
Yeah.
for example?
So,
Okay.
what
So
type
this,
of
yeah,
businesses that you would be aiming for first, or you wouldn't have like a specific target first?
yeah. So our specific target. it's really we don't have a specific niche, but we have a specific size. So
Right.
typically our size is a solo person to a medium-sized business, like 50 about 50 people. That's typically what we're looking for, but I think in a lot of bigger companies, they can also find it useful more for in the individual case. I think it can be used in a large scale, but, I think it's more useful when you're in a big organization of 1,000 people to be using it yourself for your kinda profession, your work. I think that's the really big thing. We also are, just starting to get into teams. So originally we're gonna call them teams. Maybe later we'll call them companies when we get
Right.
the features a little bit bigger and have it set up for larger size scale things. So yeah, but it's originally made for about 15 on.
Yeah, this is important, to discuss because a lot of founders, what they do, they just go too broad, and investors, they're usually like put off by that. They prefer you to, drill down a niche or a vertical extremely well, understand your core audience, and then expand from there. Usually, like that's the formula of success that has been repeated over and over in so many startups that we see right now. So on your side, do you already have, some kind of strategies? Like we don't need to discuss them because this is strategy, but do you already did you prepare some material to show to them like the way that you would be deploying into the market, or is that like after the MVP?
Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit after the MVP, but the main thing for me, to be honest, to deploy into the market is really just, I mean, LinkedIn posting and Twitter and Instagram. I think it's really great to have your launch video. I think you can do a launch video for really cheap, and it kind of lets everyone know and builds a little bit of hype. Okay, if they have a decently looking launch video, they might have a decent product, and I think that gets a lot of Gen Z, which is, I mean, Gen Z is a really big target. Of, I think it's like 50% or 70% of Gen Z they want to start their own business, and I think that's really important for them to have the tools to do that. And a lot of them really don't. They'll try multiple tools, which are really confusing. Like a lot of them, I think, even people that are like, "Wait, you use Cursor? I've never seen you code." They'll be using like Cursor and just magical things. They'll create something. I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Like, are you gonna sell it? They're like, "Well, I don't really know like how to set up like the how to get Stripe. I don't know how to do all that kind of stuff." I think that's the really big market. I think Gen Z will be one of our biggest markets. But I also think medium-sized businesses, even already existing ones. My mom's already like making all of her use cases. She wants to make it a whole agent just for her.
Oh my God.
So
What type of agent did she build for herself? I'm just curious. It's so cool to know.
Yeah, so she does, investigation work for, basically, it's like legal work for criminal justice, essentially.
Oh,
She's
nice.
worked on, many big cases, like Justice Jones, all those kind of big cases.
This
That's
is amazing. It
typically
can
the
be
area she
used
works
as
in.
a case
Yeah,
study for the legal industry. So that's
yeah.
amazing. It's actually it's crazy, that already you have relatives that are using your tool, adapting it, and you can use it as use cases. In most in most scenarios, founders don't have that luxury, to use their family as use cases or whatever they're applying your tech to. So I think the vibe right there, it's amazing. And also, while you're explaining everything, I'm just thinking about the other founders that would be looking at this video. They're gonna be wondering like, what type of tech stacks do you guys use to stay efficient? Like Slack or whatever, without going into the strategic side of things, because we don't want to share your strategy and all that. But maybe you can suggest, the general rules of thumb that small teams can follow.
Yeah, so, right now, we're just on Discord and GitHub.
Mm. Oh,
That's all we
it's as
use.
simple
We
as
keep
that.
it simple as
Lean.
that.
Yeah.
That's all we're using. We're using GitHub to push our code, and then we use Discord to communicate. We're all kind of young, and we met each other through Discord. I think we're always on Discord just because it's kind of like if you use Instagram, you're gonna stay on Instagram compared to TikTok because you have more stuff already built on Instagram. If you're already built onto a platform, it's really hard to transition into another platform. And that's kind of the same thing that I thought was we tried to do Slack, we tried to do notation, and they're like, okay, we just like Discord, so we just stayed on Discord. I think maybe if the team scales a lot bigger
Yeah.
and kind of has someone a little bit older, we'll probably transition into that kind of stuff. I don't think it'd be too insane of a transition, but right now with just us three, I think it's really easy to do.
No, it's important to understand because founders, they think like, okay, I'll get myself a suite of 50 tools to go ahead and get started. No, you don't need to do that. You just can start so lean and so simple and build
Exactly.
something amazing. And, that's the illusion that stops so many founders of building something great, you know?
Ye
This is the, and so far, early on, like, let's say that we look back, what was the most brutal technical mistake that, you came across?
Ooh, the most brutal one was probably we built our whole stack in Next.js or not
Uh-huh.
Next.js, Node.js. So we built it
Node.js, okay.
originally in Next.js and Node.js. We just built it all in one. We didn't have a back end and a front end. We just did it all on one stack. That was probably the biggest oh no.
Is it
Took
because
us
it
a little
ate
bit
way too much RAM from the server?
It wasn't necessarily that, it was just a lot of limitations and the
Mm.
code was very unorganized.
Uh,
We've got it a lot more organized now. It was just like a lot of stuff from just one file all logging up, and, I think it just kind of began to get a little bit confusing, so then, we decided to make that transition to, Python for the back end, and, yeah.
no, this is a very smart move. And also, I was thinking when you were talking about, the next steps, sometimes investors, they will, throw crazy questions at you when you start meeting them. And one of the biggest challenges is, and we hear that a lot on LinkedIn. You're a great LinkedIn user. You know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of posts that speak about wrappers for GPT, and startups use tons of these GPT wrappers. So the investors would ask, like, okay, so what would you do if OpenAI does the same thing? So, do you have like a backup plan there to like support yourself if that happens?
Yeah, so the thing with OpenAI is that they're not gonna go towards agent based. They'll go towards
Yeah.
this, or they won't go towards employee based. They might go towards trying to get the autonomous feeling. But the thing with that is when we have communication between every single agent, they're not gonna add that just because it wouldn't
Mm,
be. They're not a team infrastructure. They're creating a chatbot, which is a standalone. Kind of the main thing is even sharing chats, they just added that on. I
yeah.
don't think that they would ever add on communications between agents because then they'd be switching from chatbot to an agent to agents talking to each other all on their platform. That'd be a lot of chats. You have a lot of chats on ChatGPT.
Yes.
I have like 800 chats myself. So I
Exactly.
think that would kind of be a very confusing platform because like art, for example, they can delegate tasks. If you talk to Alex, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. If you talk to Alex, which is our development agent, we just call him by names, and then you talk
That's so
to,
cool.
it'll talk to Chloe.
Mm,
And essentially, how that works is, hey, Alex, we're doing a marketing campaign. We updated the website. We're doing a 20% off campaign this week. All right, it talks to there, but it also needs to talk to Chloe because she needs to run a campaign on social media. She needs to make sure people know we're running 20% off. That's essentially how a little bit task delegations works. So, they're talking to each other just like in real time. If you're in a real company, you're going to talk to one person, they're going to talk to another person to make sure everyone's on board with the same thing. That's exactly how that works. I don't think they'd ever really catch up onto that. Um, yeah. And then,
It's important. It's important to distinguish what you just said because OpenAI is extremely focused on the specific niche, which is the mass market at this point. Yes, they do have professional plans and all that, and of course, there's other competitors like DeepSeek and Anthropic, Claude, whatever. These are huge companies too. But the more you specialize as a founder, according to the use cases that your user base sees, the more you adapt, the less the bigger players are flexible to also go in the same direction as you. So you're basically building up a moat just by speaking with your clients and then seeing the pattern of usage that you would adapt inside of your product, right?
exactly. A lot of their stuff, like even our competitors, they're all task-based or personal assistants. A lot of them, they don't run autonomous. You have to tell them to do everything, which that was my really big, okay, I'm gonna create this and just so I can use it, honestly. That was a really big thing. And then I'll have a LinkedIn post later today, something that I did with one of our agents, which I think is really something big. So yeah.
Yeah, people would definitely, look for it. I think maybe you can share your LinkedIn. I guess they can find you by name, Kendall Booker.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so don't miss out. Like, definitely subscribe to his LinkedIn. He's posting amazing stuff that their system and startups are currently working on deploying into the ecosystem. So watch out for his LinkedIn feed. And I'm curious also, most founders, they wait years and years before even raising. And you're doing this at 18, right? So that's really young. So what clear signs made you decide that the timing was right for that 750K pre-seed?
Yeah, so I think the time is right just because he's in Europe and I really want to bring him to America. I think it'd really be great for us. He's working blue collar and he's working 12 hours a day. So I think that's a really backbender for him. I think if he's like kind of full time, I think we're even going way faster. I think 12 hours a day is pretty already great, to be honest. But I think him in America would also make that just like insanely well. I think he's the best developer I probably have ever met. So I really wanted him to bring him here. And then another thing is infrastructure. So when we originally launched, we're doing a lot of testing, and honestly, it costs us a lot of money to do testing, especially with the real users. Because I think a lot of these users, once we give them access to it, they're going to be testing it to the maximum. They're going to be testing for every single use case they've ever wanted. And when you're creating a full-on business, I think that's going to cost us a lot. And a really big problem with it is like even if I want to do like a subscription in the very beginning for users, I think in the very beginning for the first like 200 users essentially, so there's like 50 more spots. But I wanted to do it a little bit for free, probably for like a week or so to test out how much it actually costs because there's really no way to tell how much it's going to cost us. Like doing a very small scale of how us three testing it, trying to maximize it, it's simply not going to really show us the actual price of it. So you kind of have to have some real data to test it, which I mean, you really need money for essentially. Yeah, so it's really just being able to scale right away.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let's say that, you get wired 750K today, right? And founders are going to listen to this answer because this is very
Yeah.
important within the mindset of the way that you start the engine. So what's the capital allocation breakdown approximately in
Yeah.
1 month that, would give you benchmarks for the next steps?
So the first thing that we plan to do is we plan to buy the house in Texas.
Oh, nice.
Cheap, really cheap area. We plan to buy it at like a $250,000 house. And then our employees, which is us three, will get like a $30,000 salary. Pretty low, but we're able to easily live off of it if we're not paying for a house. And I think that's kind of great to be on a very low salary because typically founders will pay themselves out if they get $750,000, usually almost $100,000 to themselves each. And I think that's a lot to do if we have a house, it's obviously always resellable. It's kind of always going up market essentially. I think it's kind of a very stable area. I think a lot of great companies do it as well. And yeah, I think it'd be nice to have all of us near each other. Andrew, he's still in school. So having that right next to him as well will be really great. We'll be able to, kind of talk. I think we can push each other even a lot more in person, even. I think it's really motivating to know your people in person. I think it kind of pushes you. You see someone doing a lot, and then you kind of want to do a lot. You're like, okay, he's doing a lot. I'm not doing a lot. I need to do a lot more today. I think that's a really big thing, especially for me, honestly. When I see someone that they're pushing a lot harder than me, I'm like, okay, I gotta start pushing a lot harder. I'm not gonna sit in this corner and just look, I mean, just look stupid in the corner, just not doing anything while all these people over here are working really hard
Right.
trying to get to whatever they can get to, honestly. So that's a really big thing. Next thing would be Inferno cost. That would be probably about 30% of it all. And then yeah, that's really about the biggest breakdown. And then we plan to do a little bit towards marketing. I don't think we're gonna need a lot towards marketing. I think honestly, organic marketing is your strongest marketing. I
This
think
is smart.
on
What you're saying right here, a lot of founders think they have to spend 50% of their allocated investment over to Google Ads or, Meta Ads. But what you're saying, organic, it has so much punch to it. Literally, the trust is there because you're not pushing the traffic over. And, I'm saying this because, well, I have experience with that. We're managing like $52 million in ad spend, and usually this helps out with a later stage of a business. So, for example, if a company raises 3 million as a seed round, Usually it makes sense to put maybe like 1 million into marketing. But when you're doing pre-seed, it's way better to go ahead and start out with the organic platform that you're building right now. It's a solid foundation for a very long-term future.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think there's really many use cases to spend money on when you're early starting. I think it's great to do a very little on Instagram. I think Instagram has a decent one for ads. Just because I mean, usually users can't tell that it's an ad, and that's really great. You don't want your users to know it's an ad. I'm gonna be like that's kind of a straightforward thing. Whenever they don't know it's an ad, they think it's really genuine, and that's when they click it. I think that's really the main thing. I don't think other platforms are really needed. They have really great algorithms. Even Instagram has a really great algorithm. If you post right, you have to target really towards Gen Z though on that platform. But I think if you do it right, you don't really need to spend really anything.
Can you share with our audience, like, what did you waste time on early that now you'd cut out instantly?
Uh, for me, probably would be a lot of framework looking at, and we look to train our own models, which I don't think is even honestly foreseeable until we're like a Series A, to be honest. It costs a lot of money. Like even when you're using third party services, I think it costs a lot of money. I think if you look more towards into prompt engineering or maybe data setting very small messages for chatbots, for example, for our chat messaging, we plan to use a data set, a very small model, and it's very cheap to run it. And then for executing tasks, we use bigger models like Claude Sonnet 4, OpenAI's models, those kind to actually execute the task. And then you have a lot of prompt engineering on top of it. But I think that's really a big thing if you want to create something with AI is don't look to train your own large language model. I think that's a very big waste of time, and you'll kind of notice it once you get into the price tags of everything.
Well, maybe you have, some interesting tidbits to share there. Did you like bump into a huge issue that you regret?
Yeah, so I looked into a lot of large language model training, and then I seen the price tag of everything. I think it'd be really great to do it, but I also don't think you need a large language model, to be honest. I think if you have a great data set, for example, OpenAI, they let you train a lot of the models. I really wish Claude would as well. It's really great for executing tasks. I'd say Claude's miles ahead of OpenAI when it comes to execution. OpenAI has a really good research. That's like a great thing that they have. Their agent just has so much data, but training onto it is just great. I'm gonna be honest. I think if you create your own data set, obviously not everyone's gonna know what a data set is. Essentially, is if you send, hey, send back hello, and it says back, hello, my name is Chloe. Well, I don't want that. I said say hello. So in the data set, you said don't prefer that answer. You prefer hello. That's all data set is. It's this bunch of those, and it trains the model, the huge model, and then every time it basically sees that, that's what it's trained on. It's like training a baby essentially, and it works the same way. I think it's a great way to go instead of doing a large language model. Maybe in the very later.
Yeah, interesting, and thanks for that response. It's always fun to see your point of view on these type of situations. And founders are obsessed with hiring right now. Like, what percentage, what percentage of like tasks do you believe like should be offloaded to AI employees today?
I think almost every single thing that's not a hands-on thing, I think can be done with AI. To be honest, I think anything that's on the web can be done with AI.
Interesting. Oh, this is awesome. And right now you're building a company of agents, right? So if you're right, like what happens to how early stage startups are staffed in 3 years from now? What's your vision of that?
Yeah, so a lot of people they think, okay, AI is going to take us over since AI is great. It's just going to try to do everything. Well, AI is completely trained on already existing data. That's all it's trained on. Large language model. All it is everything from the internet is scraped, and it's just like having this super mind. That's all it is.
Exactly.
It anything in the real world it's not going to know about. If you go find a penny on the sidewalk, it doesn't know about that penny there. It only knows about existing things that someone posts online. That's all it is. And I think if you can create something, I think it'd be very limited because obviously AI it can come up with some great ideas. It can mix an existing idea with another existing idea and meet in between to make a new idea, right? But if you come up with something great, a lot of inventions of not existing things, if it's completely non-existing, then it's just going to work. I think it'll prioritize people that have great ideas, is what I think will happen in the next 3 years. I think okay ideas will get faded away, and then great ideas will be a very, like, just a star. Like, I think they'll shoot up really fast, especially if they're using AI.
I love it. I love it. And what's the most important thing I didn't ask that we should discuss?
Probably the background of my founders. I'm really like I'm a team player.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah,
talk about that.
yeah, so Andrew himself, he just was in a startup. So right now he's in Boston, so he's doing a little, it's not an internship, almost like an internship. It's a very experienced learning experience. He's doing that right now at MIT. I think it's a research lab if I'm correct. So he's doing a lot of that kind of stuff. He's really into tech. He's currently in high school. He's going through his senior year. He's done a great job though. He's been delegating 8 to 12 hours himself a day. So that's been honestly really good for me as
Wow,
well.
that's huge.
I'm a very pushy thing. I like to kind of just push and push. Like, hey, everyone, let's make sure we get our 8 hours in today. I'm a very, I'm very, very just towards like get a lot of work done every single day,
I
which
love it.
it's a great trait, but also a bad trait to push people so much. But
How
that's
else do you get
Andrew.
things done, right? Like, is it
Yeah,
the right thing to do?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And then Hornoyo, he's from Romania, which is Europe. He's works for the Romanian government, the Danish government, and a little bit within the United States government for intelligence,
Oh
which
God.
basically means if something goes wrong, someone's doing something online now or that kind of stuff, he basically tries to find them, hunt them down. He's a hunter.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah.
So uh,
That's
kind of a
crazy.
cool thing, but, yeah, then he does a lot of cybersecurity as well. He's done I think it's, was it, cyber inferencers is something around that, or cyber graphing, that's what it's called. So
Cool.
he's done
I
a lot of
first
that
time
kind
I
of stuff.
hear
He's
about
really
that.
into that.
That's yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
So you have, all of these founders that are really into everything AI and security. So, I think when investors, they're betting on horses, which are the founders, because usually, 1 out of 20 uh, startups that they would actually fund would succeed to become a unicorn. So it's just a numbers game for them. And I think in your case, you have a really nice stack of talent to take the ship to the destination, which is really cool. And, before we end this episode, usually I really love asking founders this question. So, if you could whisper one thing to yourself, right, at day one of building the current company, what would you say to yourself?
probably don't worry about, marketing or branding as much in the very beginning, just build a product.
Right. I love it. I love it. It's so simple, yet it is so impactful, right? People just pass by the simple trait that you have as a mindset. And this is amazing. I really appreciate, your transparency, the way that you've been very candid about everything. And I think you're going to change the lives of a lot of founders listening in, and also inspire even yourself in the future when you're going to look back at this episode. Are you going to say to yourself, "Oh, that's the mini me"? I was thinking like that, right? But you're going to be huge in the future. I'm really sure about that. Very happy to see you succeed. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you for having
So
me.
thank you
Alright.
too, Kendall. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. If you found this one valuable, which I think it was hyper valuable, tons of golden nuggets, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget that little bell icon. And of course, like and subscribe. All right. See you in the next episode. Cheers.